Hello, everyone. We're playing 3-player King of the Hill half chess. So imagine you have a half of a board, and there's 3 players, and you just put it up to their boards whenever you want.
Yeah.
That's what this is, and we're playing King of the Hill. Get checkmated or bring your king to one of the 4/6 center squares.
Yeah. So delicacies are very strange things. I don't know if you know about the fact that lobster used to be considered the rat of the.
No, it used to be considered for the poor. It used to be.
Yeah, they would feed it. They would force feed it to prisoners, who would be like, "Oh, this is terrible. No, yeah, you definitely shouldn't eat this.
Do you
God,
think they
please
were
no more
lying
lobster."
And they really did love it, or?
It might have been because they, cooked it too much, and so it was really tough. But I think it's a lot of delicacies are like that. Like organ meats used to be considered like peasant food, but now we got things like pate and various kinds of offal. Sweetbreads are another one where, that's delicacies are a thing where we sort of, as a society, we relegate certain foods to the lower classes.
I think the word delicacy is just a joke.
Yeah. Well, it's not that it's a joke. It's that almost all of those foods used to be relegated to just like poor people because we thought they were bad.
Delicacy has no kind of objective meaning. You're saying that delicacy is a highly culture that is changing in time as culture does change.
But pineapples used to be a delicacy because they were like, I think
they were really difficult to get to the point where you used to be able to. Pineapples were considered like a status symbol. This is why if you go to like Britain, you see worked into like.
Talking about hundreds of years. What scale time?
like flower time.
Certainly the Victorian era. Pineapples were considered like to the point where you could rent a pineapple to put on a table at a party, so people would be like, "Oh, he has a pineapple." But I don't. I wonder when or if he will eat it, and you never do, because certain kinds of fruits were just that hard to obtain.
Have you ever had bird nest soup? Bird nest soup?
I have not. And the idea of bird nest soup.
Do you?
I would probably try it just because it's so weird, but the idea of like eating a bowl full of bird spit kind of doesn't.
So you don't think of it ethically as bothering you? It's just the thinking of it.
Yeah, because as far as I know, they don't like kill the birds or like raise the birds specifically to.
They just go to the caves, man. That's why it's so dangerous.
Yeah, they like forage for it. Yeah, I'm okay with like found stuff.
Yeah, but I mean so many people have said it's good, isn't it? Wouldn't it be so interesting to try it? Like.
Yeah.
Do you think it might be one of those things where it's good because it's so hard to get? Not really that good, but because it's so hard to get, and so like that raises its cultural feeling of it being like some kind of great. That might be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Well, to the point where classic example for me anyway is filet mignon or like any kind of beef tenderloin. That is very expensive, and it's only expensive because like there's not a lot of it on a cow, and it's very tender, but it's almost completely flavorless as far as beef goes. Like there are much cheaper cuts of beef that I think are way, way better.
Ribs, right? Isn't ribs great because it has these little things, fat, like pieces of fat, but then it has these sections of tender meat.
Yeah, it's just really tough if you don't braise it. That's really where it's at. Is 420 braise it, y'all. Braising meat is the truly patrician way of cooking meat. Braising is the process of cooking something at a lower temperature, not like a low temperature necessarily, but lower than you would normally cook something. And you do it for so long that it goes so far past the point of well done that the fibers in it start to break down thus making it tender again. But it hits a point of like, it's tender and raw, and then
I'm gonna eat so much after
cook
this.
it gets super tough, and if you cook it longer, the connective tissue in it will start to break down, and that's what gives you all that pockets
Does
of
that
fat
affect
and
flavor pretty drastically or not?
oh yeah, because that's where a lot of the like fat is, and also collagen, which is a kind of fat, but it's the kind of fat that's stored in connective tissue, as
I
opposed
know
to
about it. It's because I had a friend who had something called EDS. What is it? From EDS, and she had a collagen producing problem.
yeah. So did you have to eat like a lot of it, or did she get like injections or?
It's like physical therapy, injection, like steroid injections, all that shit.
Yeah, we need that stuff. We need it in our bodies to
Then what
lubricate.
happens to the collagen you said in the meat when it gets cooked like that?
It breaks down into something that basically turns into like jelly, and that contains a lot of flavor compounds. That's when so like when you simmer bones and stuff to make like a stock or a soup.
Yeah.
You're breaking those down in order to release like those flavor compounds into the water. And it's the collagen, because stocks are almost fat free, so there's no fat globules to carry the flavor. It's all collagen, which is fat like, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? Amino acids and stuff like that.
The braised meat tastes totally different than non-braised meat, and how does it taste different? What is the flavor? How would you describe the flavor?
It's meatier. It's also a lot more tender. Like if you don't braise, like if you buy a chuck roast and you cut it into steaks and then you just like cook them on a grill like you would a normal steak, they would be like shoe leather, even if you only cooked it to like a medium rare.
What would be shoe rubber?
Like chuck roast.
Oh yeah. I've had chuck roast.
Yeah. If you cut that into like steaks and you seared it instead of braising it, it would be very tough, and it wouldn't taste much different from like a sirloin.
You pretty much have to braise chuck.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
anything.
Your bishop's under attack by that bishop. I don't know if you see that. I guess we'll figure it out.
Oh. Look at that.
I guess. Sorry if I announced that move.
You're right. It is indeed a mind melt. A melting of the minds.
So next question for you. Damn it, maybe I don't have one yet, but I'll be thinking.
Okay. Fun fact, soy sauce. Let me look for the charging cable for this because we're down to 37%. So soy sauce was made by vegetarian monks who were trying to create a vegetarian alternative to fish sauce, and instead made a completely different thing. And in turn, I can never say it right. Worcester sauce. I'm going to use the British term, aka Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, I can't say it. That sauce was made by English dudes trying to make soy sauce. And instead they made this like weird kind of fish saucy kind of thing that apparently at first tasted kind of gross, so they stashed the bottles away in a cellar, forgot about them, dug them up like 12 years later and tasted it, and they were like, oh, this is pretty good. And those two guys were Lee and Perrins.
Aged and it got better tasting, probably just from aging.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was Lee and Perrins, the two guys that started Lee and Perrins. Which is why that's often considered to be the only Worcester sauce. I think that's in Salt, actually. Salt of World History.
So, wow. So soy sauce is... How do you make soy sauce?
It's a similar process to making fish sauce. So what you do is you take you don't just use soybeans. You take like the entire soy stalks and plants with the beans in them. You dump a bunch of salt on them. You stack them in these weird sort of wire racks that allow like water and stuff to drip down. And you put those racks in like a kind of a sauna-like room. It's a very wet, hot environment that generates a lot of moisture, and all of this salt will sort of leach out these juices from the soybean plants that will then fall like down into a vat below. And that's the basic process. Modern soy sauce usually has like some toasted barley added to it. For like especially like kikkoman. Japanese soy sauces usually have some sort of wheat or barley additive in them because that's just what we think of and what the Japanese think of as like the quintessential soy sauce flavor. But something closer to a Chinese soy sauce would be this stuff called tamari, which is just straight soy. Tamari is making a comeback because of all the gluten-free folk roaming around these days.
So, do you understand the crusade against gluten?
I know people with like actual celiac disease, which I can understand why. That's just like an autoimmune condition like any other kind of allergy, except way more the inflammation, instead of happening in like their airways like it would for somebody with a peanut allergy, it happens in their gut, which the symptoms can range from like eating gluten makes you feel kind of nauseous to eating gluten can make you shit blood until you die. So celiac covers like a wide range of symptoms. But as far as like gluten intolerant people, that's not a real thing. It's been pretty definitively proven in a lot of clinical trials that it's not a thing.
Emerson, you're up.
And yeah, really, and there have been numerous double-blind clinical trials that have definitively proven that gluten insensitivity is like a psychosomatic condition. So like they experience real symptoms if they think they have ingested gluten, but those symptoms are entirely in their head. Or they're caused by their head. It's not in their head because they are experiencing real symptoms, but it's a form. It's honestly like a form of mass hysteria.
Gluten allergy?
Gluten insensitivity. Celiac is an actual autoimmune condition that in a double-blind
I know someone who has
clinical
celiac
trial,
but also has gluten. I don't know if that's
the same thing. If they have celiac, that is
Right.
that is like an actual gluten allergy, even though it doesn't have like quite the same mechanism of action as an allergic reaction. There's no histamine involved or anything like that. But I think it just caught on as like a health craze that got transformed into a minor mass hysteria. In the form of like people in Whole Foods seeing the like new gluten-free section and they're like, oh, well, so they must be cutting gluten out for a reason, and whatever that reason is,
buy it and they don't even need it. They don't even have a problem.
Yeah. Which is a blessing and a curse for people with the actual problem, because the blessing comes in the fact that like
people keep making that option for them.
Yeah. But the curse being food service professionals who don't know better, who can't make the distinction between the sensitivity and the actual celiac disease. And so as a result, I know not a lot of people with celiac disease, but the people I do know who have it, like, they just don't eat out ever because they don't trust anybody to
go down on them.
they don't trust anybody to take the guidelines seriously because of people who have treated it kind of like a fad diet.
It's so fucking interesting. Holy shit.
There's so many layers. Like an onion or an ogre.
Very smart about this shit. Holy fuck. God, I mean, I don't know. My mind's on fire with just wherever we could talk about.
You should check out the Bon Appetit YouTube channel. They're pretty great. They have a lot of cool stuff. Especially the show It's Alive with Brad Leone. He does all sorts of fermented foods and stuff, hence why it's called It's Alive. Yeah.
Because of the yeast process?
Yeah. Or just whatever he's using for the fermentation, or he makes stuff like cultured butter and yogurt and kombucha. What was the really weird one? Oh, so there's this moldy rice that's used in the process of making sake. The moldy rice, I think, is called koji. And you can use koji to do a like fast dry aged beef. So normally for dry aged beef, you would just like get a haunch of meat, you set it on a shelf in a dry, cool cabinet, and let it sit there for like a month at like 50 degrees, between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And it won't like grow mold on it. And and that mold will like break down the fibers and stuff in it, change the flavor completely. That's something that does live up to the hype, is dry-aged beef. Dry-aged beef is pretty good. But you can get something that's pretty close by buying this Japanese moldy rice, which is used as like a starter for the fermentation process for sake. And you blitz it up into a powder, and you just like rub that powder on the outside of the beef, and then you can just like let it sit in your fridge for a day or two. And that will get you something that is, and that'll get you something that's very close to an authentic dry-aged beef.
What does that taste like? Dry-aged beef. What is the flavor palette? How does it change?
It's almost like you take like a really dry red wine and injected it into the beef. Not quite on that level, but it does give it like an almost winey, wine-ish, wine-like, vino, whatever adjective you want to use.
Whiny just sounds.
Yeah,
like
whiny.
How many A's?
Whiny sounds like a whiny brat type thing.
Yeah. The only sommelier I know was from school. Like, we had a resident sommelier who was like he did like the wine. There was a wine class that was sort of like an elective, because they can't force you to drink wine. But who isn't going to sign up for that class? Which also included cheeses. But he was the catering teacher, taught about, and the health and safety guy. So he taught all the boring administrative stuff, whereas we had our chefs who taught all of the exciting cooking. Oh God, and the pastry instructor, who was the most humorless gray. They just had a gray aura about them. I don't know what it is about working with dough that turns you into just like a husk of a human being, but I didn't believe until I met that particular person. I don't understand how somebody can make like wedding cakes and stuff and be that blasé.
Make your move,
Yeah.
Emerson.
Okay. Know a lot about what wines go together with what things and all that stuff, or not really?
I know a little bit. I usually that's something I use the Flavor Bible for because they have a lot of pairings listed in there. But I've sort of noticed that you really do just sort of match the like color of the wine with the color of the food, and that works.
Yeah, I know reds with I was talking more like more. Does it go more in depth than that, or is
barely. It barely goes more in depth than that. Like it really does work out to the point where, like matching the color of the wine to the color of the protein, is like, you can't. Just by doing that, you would never make a mistake like so grave that the wine would be either the food or the wine would become inedible or undrinkable. Like you would, just by following those guidelines, it wouldn't be. I guess if you bought like a port, like or some sort of thick, sticky dessert wine and served that with beef, that might be a way that you could. Make an attempt at screwing that up, but which is a thing that fascinates me in many ways. Like if I'm bored at work, I will intentionally try and make like the worst tasting flavor combination I can possibly think of.
Really?
Yeah. I tried to make a cocktail once that tasted like drinking orange juice after brushing your teeth.
No, what was it? A cocktail, you said?
Yeah. Because we have like a pretty nice bar with a wide selection of spirits and stuff, and so yeah, I made a cocktail using like mint liquor and some citrus stuff that we had lying around, and the goal from the outset was to make something that tasted like drinking orange juice after brushing your teeth, just because I wanted to make the world's worst cocktail that I could think of.
Think you succeeded? Did you share it with any of your?
Oh yeah, people were like, "Oh god, this is like next level disgusting." It was pretty great.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have the recipe for it?
Yeah, it was like 1/2 part. I didn't use creme de menthe. What did I use? Because creme de menthe is creamy, and that's not what I want. I wanted might have just been like some kind of mint schnapps and some Grand Marnier, a little splash of orange juice. Like a tiny splash. Didn't want to rely too much on the orange juice. Because otherwise you could just put like a shot of Rumplemints in a glass of orange juice and like that would probably achieve a similar effect. But yeah, it did not get, let's say it didn't get added to the like little bartender's recipe book that we keep.
We got
Favorite cocktails.
I'm a big fan of the Hemingway daiquiri, which is like
sweet shit.
What was that?
Like that sweet shit.
No, Hemingway daiquiri has no sugar added. So,
wow, okay.
So it's like very, very tart.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of like super sweet cocktails. I like my poison to taste like poison. Hence, making a cocktail that,
Is
tastes
alcohol
disgusting.
really that bad for the body?
No,
Is what?
alcohol really that bad for the body?
I've seen two studies recently that's been like, yes, alcohol is actually worse than we think now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty definitively proven to be a carcinogen. Not quite on the level of like cigarettes, but still pretty bad. And that most of the health benefits that are espoused for drinking alcohol usually are in country. They like do these studies in countries where they drink a lot of wine, and there doesn't seem to be that much more of an advantage of drinking wine over just drinking like grape juice. Why can I only go there? Oh, because I'm in Czech.
Yeah, he was in Czech, Emerson. You could have done anything to Mike, and you blew it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What was he in Czech from?
The
My
queen.
queen. He opened up the file, the D file.
Yeah, the half board.
The D/E file.
Fuck, dude, Jesus! I always forget to look at the ones where y'all are at. Fuck.
Yep.
Like that's the hard thing is I always remember to check my side, but it's hard. Sometimes you forget people's side. But then the crazy part that blows your mind is when one of your pieces is on someone else's side, and then when you look at the two that are not your boards, you can still move.
Yeah.
The good thing to do is click the piece and then look at the board. So if you click the piece,
Shit, dude, Jesus, that's like cheat mode. Fuck.
Yeah. That's
Like
the idea.
fucking next level shit. Like, damn. Wow. Okay. Big.
yeah. Henry's Kitchen had a new video today.
Oh.
So that's why I sent Emerson that one, but he said he liked the chili one better, which is I believe it's his most popular video.
Oh, the
Chili for one or something.
Yeah. And the salsa.
He did
and
a Valentine's Day beef stroganoff for one, which was really good.
beef. Yeah, beef stroganoff.
You probably know the phrase, "My neighbor's whipping off some nasty beef stroganoff," but I'm gonna make it with chicken. That's what he did.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one. That's. I just love the idea that a guy has made a creative career out of. Well, I don't know if it's a career as much of a. Yeah, does he have like a Patreon?
He has
on it?
Patreons, yeah. And, well, he's a comedian,
Yeah,
so-
obviously.
so
I
I
would
think
hope
he
so.
does. Oh, stream
Oh.
disconnected.
Yeah, that
I should-
means the internet just cut out.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Yeah, it cut out over here.
Oh,
Oh, Emerson can't hear us because there is no internet. But we're still here.
it should be cut back out soon.
I will
You
just.
can think of your move.
I can think of my move. As if I wasn't doing that already. Oh.
Open up Discord.
Yeah.
Because that's probably just us. Log on.
Yep.
Oh, well, I guess we'll
Connecting.
Boom, 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 da, da, da.
Commence monosaturated goodening. Don't know what that means.
Is it back yet?
New audio device detected. Are we back? Can you hear us?
Don't switch twice.
You're back.
Cool.
Yeah.
We-
The internet went out for a second. If it's not still out.
The Wi-Fi decided to take a break. A little smoke break. But now it's back.
What my question was while you're gone. Saw like pans and pots. Is that like a whole big thing? Like, does it really matter a lot what pans and what pots you use to cook stuff?
Mostly, it matters a little bit, but not. You can make any sort of cooking surface work. it mostly has to do with, well, you can make any sort of
knowing the pot. Sorry, no, finish what you were saying.
Oh, it mostly comes down to like knowing how the pots and pans that you have heat up, and if they have like hot spots or if they heat up evenly.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's what I was literally going to ask. Because like it's like knowing the pots you use.
Yes.
That's why you always want to have your own pots, right? Because you know the intricacies of those pots.
Right.
Intricacies.
But it also helps.
There's like a very special set of pots and stuff that you have that are dear to you.
I have a carbon steel skillet that is like, people always sing the praises of cast iron.
Yeah, because the flavor gets cooked into it, right?
Yeah. But I'm a big believer in carbon steel. It's basically cast iron, but better in every conceivable way.
Really? Why is that?
It develops like a seasoning on it much faster.
It just showed up on my screen like that.
It can develop a seasoning much faster, so it gets like a non-stick coating on it much quicker than a cast iron skillet, and it holds it a lot better. They're also a lot lighter because the metal's thinner, but even though the metal is thinner, it heats up more evenly. So it's like all of the things that people like cast iron skillets for, it just does it better and faster.
Steel?
Carbon steel. Stainless steel is good for. Stainless steel is sort of like the anti-stick.
Refresh the Twitch.
Or the anti-non-stick. You would use stainless steel skillets to sear things that you want to kind of stick to the pan, so you can get a nice crust on whatever it is you're searing, and a nice fond on the bottom of the pan to make like a pan sauce or whatever.
Opposite.
Yeah. Whereas, carbon steel is the opposite of that. You use it because it gets like a nice non-stick coating on the inside of it. And I have a classical saute pan which has sloped sides, so you can toss stuff in it rather than having to stir.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and that's the other bigger difference, is like how you shuffle stuff around in the pan based on its shape, whether you have to stir it or toss it.
You're a pretty good tosser?
Yeah, you get used to it. It ends up being like, once you get past the point where you're like accidentally slinging half the stuff in the pan onto the floor or onto your stovetop, it becomes a much more efficient way to like flip over the contents of what's in the pan, so you can get a nice even cooking surface.
That obviously is, right? Because you're using gravity to distribute.
Yeah. And you're like literally just flipping the contents over. And so nothing, unless there's something like really stuck to the bottom of the pan, when you do the flip, it is a very complete stir. Whereas if you're stirring, you might get stuff that's like caught in a certain place, or not really caught, but like you miss it when you're stirring. So there's that. And so I've got that carbon steel skillet. I've got a cast iron Dutch oven that can be used as like a pot for basically anything. And I have another carbon steel wok that is kind of my precious. I've had the carbon steel wok the longest, actually. And that's my go-to for a lot of stuff. Just because if you want to learn to toss stuff in a pan, learn with a wok, because it has much higher sloped sides, so it's much easier to get the motion down without having to panic about slinging everything onto the floor. So how does King of the Hill work in this situation? Do I just have to be able to...
One of the 4 middle squares.
Yeah.
Or 6 middle squares, whatever that works. So either the 2 on your board or the 2 on either person's board.
Oh god, I forget the fact that it can flip around that way too.
I know, the one where you're not on the screen.
Yeah. I for some reason I had not considered that.
You need to check on, and that's the one I always forget, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Your piece could be on that side too, and that's when it gets ballooning, like just crazy. This is probably one of my favorite variants, just for how.
What, the half chest or the king of the hill or what?
The half chest.
Just for how whacked out it is.
Yeah, I mean it's just kind of like a mind fuck. I love it.
Oh. It definitely doesn't give as good as a thumbnail as the other 3-player variants.
Yeah, because it's not. Just looks like a normal board, but you've got a little play-by-play going on the other end. But yeah, it's a wild and crazy adventure for the whole family.
Come along with... I need to finish that. I watched a lot of Adventure Time, and then it had more seasons, and it was coming out more seasons, but I never... I only watched up to however many seasons I was at that time in college.
Yeah.
I'm sure I might be able to get it tomorrow. Download some TV show, or not download, but
The Land of Ooh.
Get some. A friend has TV shows and movies on a hard drive that I hope to get tomorrow.
There you go. I have lots of friends. They're called the Pirate Bay.
Yeah, but he already downloaded one now.
Yeah. Well, so it's slightly less illegal.
What?
Sorry, keep talking. I was just gonna ask what VPN.
Oh, Nord.
You used.
Nord. Just because I ended up using Nord VPN entirely because
Your family got it, right?
No, it was just me. But I got it because we almost got our internet shut down at our house because I had a couple seasons of The Simpsons.
Because of that, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and we got 2 strikes because I had 2 seasons of The Simpsons, and Fox detected it somehow, and I was like, all right, I stopped torrenting for like a year, because this was during the streaming golden age when it was actually convenient to just pay for streaming services, but then 6 trillion of them popped up, and now I'm just like, screw it, you have made this more difficult again, so I'm not paying for it.
So this one looks like from...
It's like, just to be involved with everything, you might as well... Yeah, it's just like, fuck, it's the same price as the shitty cable.
Yeah. That and a guy I know got yeeted off of YouTube, which is where he had made all of his money, but he still had the affiliate link for that. Making dark comedy, I shall say. He's... he made a YouTube career for himself by making fun of the spree shooter Elliot Rodger.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And for that he got... Actually, they didn't really give him a reason as to why he was taken off of YouTube, because none of the videos that got flagged were ones that had to do with that. It just seemed more like random ones got flagged. But... it's kind of a house of cards that you built for yourself when you make an entire career out of that. But he's also like, I don't know, I think he just turned like 24 or something. He's got a while. He can go write comedy elsewhere.
Awesome.
A good move?
I mean...
As good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, I messed up on that one.
Dude. He's fucked now.
Yeah, I messed up. Oh, I can't believe I missed that.
But yeah, I ended up getting the NordVPN thing at a deal because he still had some affiliate link that was active, and it threw him some money. So that was mostly why I went with Nord, not necessarily because I trust them more than any other VPN. Honestly, private trackers are the way to go. Which I don't even really need to use those because most of the media I download is not owned by American corporations.
Are you into like a lot of anime, or what are you into?
I used to be more into anime, but that sort of ended up turning into like Asian historical dramas. So like a lot of Korean and Chinese period pieces. It's all live action stuff now these days, or mostly live action. I will occasionally.
Are there a lot of like? Are you talking like Kurosawa kind of stuff, or more?
Kurosawa's amazing, and yeah, I've watched a lot of his stuff, but more contemporary usually.
Okay.
But yeah, no, Kurosawa's amazing.
Hey, can you give me some recommendations there? Because I'm always looking for non-U.S. films to get into.
Well, for more like Kurosawa era stuff, you want to check out. There's a Criterion collection called Cinema Yakuza, which is all of these like 60s era gangster movies from Japan.
Yakuza.
What's up?
What would be the English way to spell Yakuza?
Yakuza.
Does that tell? Does that tell? Like, what is that about?
That's just like a genre.
So what is that? What is that generally? What elements make that genre a genre?
It's sort of the proto-Western, so there's a lot of like great shootouts and stuff. A lot of good practical special effects. But it's always centered around like some kind of crime story. Most of them are about like a guy who's hired to take a hit out on somebody.
Yeah, Tarantino was into those a lot.
Oh yeah. There's two really good ones. One's called Branded to Kill. That's sort of like I think one of the first ones in that genre. And there's another one called A Cult Is My Passport. And that one has the best shootout like ever in any movie ever. Hands down. In fact, I occasionally just fire up.
I want to look it up. What's it called?
A Cult Is My Passport.
Is it on YouTube?
Definitely the shootout scene is on YouTube. The entire movie without subtitles is on Vimeo.
Without subtitles?
Yeah, without subtitles.
Don't speak shit.
Yeah. But you could bounce around to all the action scenes in that. I ended up having to get the Criterion collection that had it in it in order to get a version with subtitles. But I'm also a member of a private tracker called Asian DVD Club, which was originally started as a place for people to trade Japanese porn, but morphed into a place for like Asian cinephiles, as in cinephiles that are into Asian films. What's up?
Asian DVD Club is what it's called?
Yeah. You have to apply to get in. They might not be. They've been kind of on the down low for a while because they got a cease and desist from a couple of different major Japanese and Korean studios. But they're still active for current, like, people who have already been approved to be members can still gain access to it. They might have opened that up again. I don't know. It's been a while since I've used it. I'm also really into, like...
Kung Fu? Are you into Gun Fu?
Gun Fu?
Stuff where they use, like, martial arts, but guns are used as, like, in a close combat kind of way?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm into like a lot of like Tony Jaa movies and we just watched we just watched The Killer by
I had another name.
by hang on. The Killer. Who wrote The Killer? It's a big one.
You just brought it over on the drive.
The Killer, is it a John Woo? Yeah, okay. So The Killer, which is a John Woo movie, that would fit what you're thinking of, most certainly. And we watched it specifically because of a Reddit post somebody made about how a lot of the action scenes in that movie are unchoreographed.
Oh. And they still turn out okay just through the power of editing?
Oh, it's considered one of John Woo's best movies.
That'd be the editing that is what saves it, right? I mean,
I would assume. Or just like sound martial arts principles that they used in when fighting or pretending to fight. It's a pretty ridiculous movie too, not gonna lie. As are many kung fu movies.
Good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
What do you think of? Did you ever see the Kung Pao, like making fun of it?
Oh yeah, that wasn't like quite my entry point, but I watched that pretty early on in my kung fu film phase. I thought it was funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in like a really tiny town that had this small independent movie store, and it had all like the normal movies that you could rent, like the blockbusters of like present day and days past. But the only weird stuff the guy had, this dude was obviously very much into anime and kung fu films because he had lots of that to rent there, in addition to just like whatever has been in theaters for the past couple of years, kind of a thing. You know, he's got like
What do you think of Kill Bill? Like, basically what Tarantino's homage to that was. Like, do you think it was... You kind of know Kung Fu better than me, like, way better.
It's...
Like, I mean, obviously it's a Tarantino spin on it, but do you think with some of the principles that are going on between them?
Oh, yeah. It's, I think it's like a pretty perfectly crafted kung fu tale, in the way that like it's almost better at it than a lot of the actual movies from that genre in some ways, in that it doesn't have all of the same, since Tarantino is like at the helm, it doesn't have all the same pitfalls that a lot of the traditional movies have, where like the plot sort of takes a back seat and starts to fall apart in order to because it really, the plot just exists as a vehicle for people to start punching each other.
Exactly, and that's what I can't fucking stand about so many superhero movies, dude. Have you ever seen Old Boy, the Korean film?
I need to. I hear a lot about it.
It's good, dude. It's like so good because the fighting scenes in it are incredible, but the plot is even more incredible.
Oh god, dang it! Hang on, I meant to go the other way. Wait, did I? Do I just want to stay there? I mean, I am safe there. Am I safe there? Hang on. No, I am not safe there. I'm going to take that move back because that was a misclick.
Take it back. What do you mean? You fucked up.
I fucked up.
So how did you mess up? Did you mean to hit the other square or what happened?
I meant to click a different piece, and
okay, well then take it back.
I submitted the.
I did it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because that's not in danger. I meant to click this and then here.
Hey, Watson.
So do I want to do it in this order? So many layers. Oh, wait a second. I don't move my queen at all.
What directors have you gotten into that aren't kung fu? Like, what are you into?
Like Asian directors or directors in general?
Yeah, anyone. I mean, aren't directors in general include Asian directors?
Yeah, I guess. Who directed The Lobster? That was one in particular where I was like, Yorgos Lanthimos. I could have sworn it was somebody I'd heard of before, and it is not. But yeah, the guy who directed The Lobster. What? Maybe I haven't seen other movies that he's done.
Lobster is so fucking good, dude.
Yeah, I love absurdism.
Oh,
That's
we gotta
kind of-
watch the Frogs movie. That's the birds, but with frogs.
Oh, yeah,
I haven't seen the birds. I haven't seen
Hitchcock.
the Hitchcock.
Well, yeah, Hitchcock's a director I
Would
can
not
definitely
be
get
good.
behind.
I mean, yeah. Would it not be as good if I hadn't seen the birds?
Well, it's just kind of like a.
It's like a parody, except all the birds are frogs.
I know, but so would it make sense that I need to see them?
No, I think it would just be equally as absurd.
Here's the gist of the movie.
Yeah.
Birds attack people.
Yeah. Including many pretty ladies that are put into compromising situations due to birds attacking them. So there's Japanese director Seijun Suzuki. Here, I will post his... He's the one who directed Branded to Kill. Which, Branded to Kill is a movie that he had... he had 3.5 days to write... Or no, the movie was already written. He had 3.5 days to shoot all the scenes, cut it, and score it. And it doesn't diminish the quality of the film in the slightest.
There's some film festival.
What is it called? What is that film called again?
Branded to Kill.
To Kill. Okay. Sorry, what were you saying?
There's some film festival recently that's like, you had to complete the film like within like however many hours.
Yeah, it's something like the
less than
24-hour film festival or something.
That sounds right.
That's what I can get behind. Okay, so the company... So the genre of film that I'm thinking of is called Nikatsu Noir. Not
Taking
necessarily
forever.
Cinema Yakuza.
Taking forever, Emerson. I'm calling you out on it.
Okay. Called out.
Who directed this one? Takashi Nomura is another noir director from Japan. Although his Wikipedia page is not nearly as extensive as Seijun Suzuki's.
What have you found that's very... Have you found any things... Like, I don't know, this might sound like a question, and I don't really want it to come off that way, but I really just don't know a lot about film, and specifically Hollywood film. So it might come off just as ignorance, which it is, but I'm willing to understand and expand that.
Okay. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Hollywood film either, to be perfectly honest.
If you could say... Ever went into a lot of the Hollywood canon?
What about Hollywood canon? You're cutting in and out a little bit. Hang on.
Gone into that?
Just ask your question again. You're cutting out a little bit.
Haven't gone into the Hollywood canon?
Not in a big way, other than people like Ed Wood, who is mostly just fascinating because he's Ed Wood.
Okay, so then I was gonna ask you, like, did you see, like, if you could summarize the main differences between Hollywood film and Japanese film? Or a big generalization, that's stupid to ask that.
It's not. I just think they have different tropes, which are harder to explain because the tropes come from sort of checkmate.
Nice.
Yeah. So like
the work, yeah.
Yeah, we have like the canon of Western literature.
That's 3-player King of the Olaf Chess with a checkmate, everyone. Thanks for watching. Go check out
what?
our other videos.
Say it again.
So in Western film, like all of our stories are built off of sort of the Western canon of literature, which sort of starts with like the Old Testament as the OG story, and I guess before that, like the Epic of Gilgamesh or whatever, and everything expands out from there in a sort of Carl Jung, Hero of a Thousand Faces kind of way.
Hero's Journey is like one of the big things.
Yeah, the hero's journey. That's like a big recurring trope in American cinema, and that has gotten adopted into various foreign cinemas by virtue of the fact that Hollywood sort of was the first one to widely distribute what they were doing. So what other countries' cinema does differently is that they insert their own
we're all tied because I got checkmate last time, and he got 1 point, or he got half point both times.
Oh yeah, so we all have 1 point.
Yeah, so we all have 1 point. At least for the videos we did today. We did Royal Bishop 3-player chess today as well. Thanks for watching, everyone.
And
So
they're like base stories with the tropes that they inject into their films are different. And I think it's neat to watch those and pick up on what they're... So in like the West, I guess everything, other than like the Bible, I guess the quintessential Western canon is Shakespeare. And like everything basically is a Shakespeare story retold.
Even Shakespeare
is a Shakespeare story retold. He stole those from people. And in Eastern cinema, they use a different canon of literature from which to derive these like baseline stories.
Does that end up to actual different narrative structures?
Not necessarily narrative structures as much as like a different pool of tropes that they pull from, and different like
Structures often quite similar.
Yeah, but I think the structures are only quite similar because of the fact that they are, in a way, imitating what they've learned by watching Western film.
Right,
that makes
and
sense.
That's the thing, dude. The permeance and like of colonization and just like all that's just so large. It's hard to, you can't unravel it. You know, you can't take it out because it's already there.
Yeah, it's cultural imperialism, as the lefty folks that I know would say.